Time for a true display of skill.
Hey everyone, this is Scrap Computer here. This video is going to cover my personal opinion on what level of skill or knowledge each individual ELO division should approximately have. This will be a nice gauge on whether you should be a higher ELO or not. I get the question a lot on my stream, and I'm stuck in gold, silver, bronze, and I deserve more. So I thought I'd cover how good you should be to go up a division or rank, to help you approximate and gauge whether you should be in higher ELO or not. This is only my personal opinion and a complete approximation of skill and knowledge. I understand exceptions can be made. Someone can be an Udyr, one single champion, never play any other ones and get to diamond. I understand that, but that's pretty rare. So I'm just going to be doing a generalized overtone. Feel free to disagree. I love a good conversation in the comment section. Besides that, let's get into it. Bronze ELO. Mechanics. Their mechanics will be basic in every single way. They will miss a crap ton of skill shots. Basically, they do not understand travel time of any sort of skill shot, or even most ability ranges are unknown. Even with this, sometimes they don't even know what type of skill shot they're using, hence be unsuccessful on the champion. They will not break animations for auto attacks or abilities, and if it does happen, it's by mistake. They miss a lot of abilities and generally misplace a lot of champion kits, or simply don't even understand what they're utilized for. Last hitting will be a very, very difficult task for these players, and they'll be lucky to even get half the CS on the map. Their map awareness is either small or non-existent. Looking at the map is a small side tone. Zone ranges, which is one of the most important things in this game, with a bronze player, doesn't even exist at all. They will get caught out by multiple abilities due to this lack of knowledge of range, and even sometimes get caught out of melee pressure. Most will have the complete inability to kite in any way, shape or form, and generally are the lowest of the low in terms of raw game mechanical skill. Game knowledge. Much like with their mechanics, bronze players know even less about the game. Rotations, objectives, compositions, even basic champion matchups are normally abstract concepts they don't even have a basic grasp on. They kind of pick things because of inconsequential things, or go on counter pick sites with no knowledge of the champion. They don't understand how compositions work together. Rotations are this massive thing they just don't have a grasp on. Objectives are known to be important, but they don't really put a kind of point on it. And matchups are pretty much unknown in every way. They need more practice. They will commonly play out decisions that either make no sense at all or are automatic responses without even understanding why they're doing the act. Why are we getting dragon now? They don't get it. Runes and masters will either be completely wrong or even in some cases non-existent, opting for more champions than runes. Items will basically be a side note and are nearly never dynamic, and either they're in incorrect order or just basic in orientation and copied from another source, which again means they're not dynamic, which means they're static, which means they're not building for the situation, hence they're behind. Champion pool. Normally they have a low to low medium amount of champions because they just haven't played enough and a very shallow pool. They will either have no champions at all but have mastered the small amount they have, or a low medium amount with literally zero mastery. Safe to say their champion pool is not very large and isn't utilized at all really. Generally they believe a lot of champions are near to unstoppable and ban nearly always the incorrect champions, or just think other champions are just OP and unstoppable. They don't understand counterplay, which is horrible. Roles. At this level they'll have a favourite 2 to 3, maybe even 4 roles, and no true main. Normally at this stage the player is still testing out most champions and doesn't even know which role they want to main. Because of this they're going to have a variance of experience over a large quantity of roles, which means basically they haven't specialised in anything, meaning they're not a master of anything. Basically they have no true role. Silver ELO. Mechanics. These players will start to grasp basic mechanics of the game but still be very clumpy in their movements. Very basic skill shots and placement orientation of skill shots starts coming into play, allowing them to land a little bit more. The range and projectile speed of a lot of abilities will still be missed or misunderstood, but if they've played the champion they'll have a basic grasp on the approximation of it, but not exact amounts. They will start maybe breaking a spell, maybe even an auto attack animation, and start placing in a few movement commands, although not doing this nowhere near enough, only doing it a couple of times a fight. Last hitting will still be poor, but maybe manageable, picking up maybe 60 65-70% of the CS if they're decent in silver. Kiting is still a very difficult task, although if they have a large piece of mobility, it could possibly be pulled off, although still not efficiently. Zone presence is starting to be understood as a real thing, but it's not really understood, and it's only a very abstract concept, which they just still don't have a grasp of. Certain champions will still be unsure of the true range, so they may concede more or less than is required. Again, lack of zone range and knowledge is pretty hurting them pretty badly, and stopping them from getting into gold, in my opinion. Game knowledge. They will have a decent hold on the very basics of the game knowledge overall, starting to understand why they play with certain champions and how to play versus certain champions in a base level. Rotations and objectives at this level are still not understood moderately, but they've got a grasp. Compositions will start coming into play. They'll think about the very basics of a composition and how to get the strongest champions together, although still not efficiently, and a lot of people at this level are just too ignorant to understand they might have to go tanky to facilitate the team. Decision making is still extremely poor, with a lack of overall knowledge to work on. Finally, the runes masteries will normally either be half correct or taken from a guide, which is fine but shows no understanding and will not be customized to the matchup. Items at this level will not be customized in any way, but again, normally will be copied from a guide, so they do have a basic idea, but again, not customized or understood. Champion pool. Surprisingly, I find this extremely similar to bronze. Their pool will normally consist of a low-ish amount of champions if moderately mastered, or a medium-ish pool, kind of big-ish pool, of a lot of champions which they just haven't mastered at all, have just played them all once or twice. They don't have a level of base knowledge to kind of work off, and they still haven't played all the champions. Roles. Silvers generally have 1 to 2 main roles, as they've tested at least half of the champion pool. These mains are only okay in standards, and the rest of the roles are extremely lacking. They've got maybe 1-2 roles they're okay at, doing okay, and then the rest of the roles, if they're put into it, they're screwed. They just don't know how to play all of the roles. If they don't get their mid, they're done for. Gold ELO mechanics. This is where some decent base mechanics come in, and some fluidity starts coming in as well. The basic of skill shots and spell orientation is covered to a good level at this point. They will not land all spells, but will hit most of them. At least half of the players are starting to animation cancel with abilities and auto attacks, although not all of them. Hitting and last hitting will be at a good level. It's not perfect, but they'll get around 70-80% of the CS, around that. Most players will be able to kite, but again, it's not perfect. It's only decent kiting in its base form, and they still kind of require mobility. Map awareness will have to be okay at this point, but not amazing. They still might miss a champion slipping in or two. Zone awareness will be basic, but can save the player's life about half the time. Zone presence is starting to be understood as a main thing, and they do start having orientation around it, but though dynamic orientation of zone control, like a Vi flashing and ulti, is still not understood. It's only a basic awareness of all abilities. Game knowledge. Game knowledge is now at a decent level. The rotations and objectives are understood as important, and they will have an okay idea on when to get these objectives on a basic form of a few rules. Composition and matchups will start coming up as a real note and as a real importance. Golds normally have a decent understanding of how compositions will work and the basics to how to win a matchup. Only the basics though, they don't have an intricate understanding. Decision making at this point gets a little bit sharper. When to go in and out are not always correct, but they're going to be okay at about 50% of the time, or maybe a little bit more. Runes and masteries will be correct, but only around 60% of the time customized for the matchup. Finally, items will be correct, but mostly are not customized correctly, although customization is starting to opt in. The item build will be good, but not fantastic and not optimized. Champion power spikes are now starting to be understood as a kind of important thing, although still used in a sort of clunky fashion. Champion pool. A gold's champion pool is normally at least 40% of all of the champions which they own. They will have a decently large pool with at least 10% of these champions in their pool at least mastered to some degree, or doing well with them anyway. The rest will be mediocre or bad when played. Most golds generally have a couple of mains, but they're not dynamic. They will still have plenty of weaknesses in this pool, and again, they're kind of screwed if they don't get their favourite champions. Roles. At this point, most players know which role they want to main, or are playing at least 2 main roles. They'll be good at about 1 or 2, but if given any other roles, they will only do meh. They'll like maybe survive and do okay. They're not going to feel like they would have previously in Silver, but they're going to do okay. They've got the absolute basics down because they have played each role with this amount of experience, but they still kind of need the role or they're going to be screwed, sort of. Platinum ELO. Mechanics. This is where the fun begins. Most players will have a good grasp of mechanics. Skill shots and abilities are very easily landed even if an enemy peeks out a little bit. Only a few mishaps will happen. Nearly all Plats break animations and will again only do the odd mess up with this animation breaking, and only forgetting it the odd time. Last hitting will be very good at this point. Normally around 85 to 90% of the CS will be taken with ease and very few missed. And even then they'll only be missed due to zone pressure or of course being knocked out of lane. Kiting at this level will be very good, it has to be. Kiting with their auto attacks and ability animations at this point is very commonplace, and breaking these animations pretty well is also quite common. Map awareness can vary, but it's normally quite good. Zone ranges will be known as to a very strong degree and sometimes be a little bit off when it comes to dynamic sort of orientation, like again a Vi flash ulting, but they still are kind of wary of this and start understanding the possible dynamics of a zone, and they might not understand champions they haven't necessarily played as well, but most ranges will be known. The range of their mains will be completely known though. Overall, most players will be slightly gifted mechanically overall. Game knowledge. Knowledge at this level has to start becoming more larger than most of the community. Rotations and objectives are important, and normally the team will get these over any time they possibly can. But they've got a flawed mindset in this, generally overstaying, maybe not wording them up enough, and being a little bit greedy for the objectives at this level becomes quite common. Plats realise how strong these objectives are and do sometimes overextend for them or miscalculate enemy rotations. Understanding of how compositions and matchups in lane work will be strong, and the players will actively pick a champion that will win the matchup or work well with their team, but still we've got a couple of ignorant people that are still stuck in their heavy mechanical mindset and don't want to consist to the game knowledge. Their base understandings of matchups and compositions and how to use them effectively is here, but the true understanding of how it actually works together might be lacking. They understand what they need, but maybe not why they need it. And sometimes the mistakes will be made when the champions need it. Runes and masteries will be almost perfect, but not normally customized extremely heavily. They'll only have a base set of really good runes and masteries, but only versus generic matchups. They're not going to customize them. Effective, but not absolutely perfect. Champion power spikes will actively be used and abused to win matchups. Micro power spikes in their champions of choice will be understood and used as heavily as they can, and using the base knowledge of enemy power spikes as well in regards to items and levels to help them win most matchups overall conceptually. Minion aggro as well at this point will be used pretty heavily as well. Champion pool. Most players at this level will have tried at least 70% of all champions and know at least half of the champions in the game. Their pool and experience at this level starts showing, having the ability to play multiple champions to a good to fantastic level. There will still be champions and all champions they'll be poor at, or they just don't have enough base mechanics or knowledge to pick up and play. With a new champion they will have to practice it a little bit, they can't just pick up anything, but their champion pool is pretty decent and they shouldn't really get picked out, they've got multiple choices. Roles. At this level, a bare minimum of 3 roles will be easily playable to a good or fantastic level and with decent ease. The other 2 roles will be manageable on the middle ground, okay, they'll survive, but they're not going to do fantastically. They still will have some roles and some weaknesses in roles that maybe aren't necessarily fantastic and kind of holding them back from Diamond if they don't get their favourite 3 roles, but overall it's generally manageable. Diamond ELO. Mechanics. Mechanics at this point will be next to perfect. Making a mistake is not forgiven at this level, so they will attempt to make 0. Even a small mistake of using an ability and missing it could cost you the game, so they're generally quite solid overall in mechanics. Skill shots, if even given a very small opening, will be landed in quick succession. All ability ranges will be known, with most champions to around even 100 pixels of the screen. Understanding of zone ranges is completely covered by these players. They know the limits of nearly every champion's zone and their own. Animation breaking and kiting are near perfect, and only very rare stifles and auto attacks are made with these mistakes. CSing at this level is next to perfect, only a very small amount of CS will be conceded in lane and should not miss anything over 5% of the minions, unless they're pushed out of the lane or dead. Map awareness, as always, will be absolutely fantastic at this level, and understanding of orientation of all champions will start to be understood as well as a very important thing. So they spot the jungler and the mid top lane, they know they're safe bot lane to shove, or maybe even take the blue buff or the dragon. Understanding like this is starting to crop up, and with base mechanics on map awareness. Game knowledge. These players should know how every champion in the entire game should work, and how each role works in the entire game in a very detailed manner. Rotations and objectives will be called out with perfect timing and with a clean execution. Overstaying at this level pretty rarely happens due to timing of hundreds of games, if not thousands of games of knowledge to call upon. Although it can still happen, sometimes they are still a little bit greedy. Compositions understanding in this game is nearly flawless. Each player will pick a champion in accordance to what the team requires. The lane matchup again will also be next to flawless. They will pick understanding how to play using a good champion matchup as well, and they'll play the matchup almost well, actually pretty much perfectly. Decision making at this point has very little mistakes made. When to engage and disengage, kite and roam and burst are all known almost perfectly by the entire team. Runes and masteries will be perfect for each matchup and will be normally customized or used very detailed generic runes for multiple matchups, and the complete understanding of how these runes can be optimized for each individual champion. Power spikes are the most important thing to these players as they understand the matchups as well. Every micro power spike in every tiny item and every level is understood even on niche champions, so they use these very heavily to win the matchups. Zone controls again almost perfect at this level. It's almost like touchable at this point. They understand zones, they're pretty much perfect overall in their game knowledge, although the higher level understanding of some things are still forgotten to them, or they just simply don't care. Champion pool. Every single champion will be played at least once, and this player will normally own every champion, or at least a mass majority, and mastered around half, if not 3/4 of the entire champion pool. They will have a good pool of champions to call upon in any scenario that's possibly required in each and every role. The versatility of this champion pool can be extremely powerful, and their base knowledge on top of this and understanding how matchup works means that they're basically not going to win and not going to be banned out in any real way. They can play almost anything. Roles. A diamond will know every role in the game to at least a pretty good level, and normally have 3 main roles which they play to an amazing standard, almost flawlessly. Again, very few weaknesses should exist with these players' role orientation. Even if they're given a niche role they normally don't play, they normally do pretty well in it and not really feed at all. They won't just hold the lane, they'll do well. Master and Challenger. I put these together because they're quite close in skill and only have a very slight difference in skill and knowledge. Let's get into it. Mechanics. These players literally are as close to perfect in mechanics as you can possibly humanly get. They break animations and auto attacks within milliseconds. Last hitting is next to perfect. The only time these players will miss CS is being heavily zoned or out of lane. Other than that, they will maybe miss 1 or 2 minions the entire game due to lack of skill. Kiting a game will be next to perfect. They'll be able to break animations and kite perfectly. Their map awareness is almost again perfect. Their eyes will be on the map and barely affect their gameplay in any real way because they're so practiced out. Overall, their mechanics are next to flawless, and no real issues should occur with the mechanics of the game. At this level, game knowledge is more important than mechanics because all of them have pretty much equal mechanics. It's all about decision making. Game knowledge. These players have the ultimate knowledge of basically everything in the game. Master and Challenger players lead the meta in regards to testing and adapting a tactic to every situation, which other players replicate on other levels, and even some Challenger players have created tactics that have been worked on the LCS. Professional players adapting them. The understanding of rotations and objectives is nearly unmatched. Timing and circumstances to gain an objective are completely understood. Compositions are extremely important at this level. Each player will understand which every single champion in the game provides, and pick a champion depending on what exactly their composition needs, or even pick a champion to counter the entire enemy composition at some levels. These tactics are extremely simple to this player with the complete knowledge of every champion. Champion matchups are completely understood and played out perfectly. Almost every matchup will be understood even versus niche picks. With this level of sheer amount of knowledge and mechanics, a niche pick top lane or mid lane will barely even phase this player, as they have the ability to theorize how the matchup should theoretically go anyway, and adapt their playstyle to the niche pick, even if they've got no experience versus it. Runes and Masteries are custom for every matchup versus the enemy, and of course the enemy composition. Decision making is again completely perfect. They can calculate a fight and engagement within 100 to 200 HP, knowing the strengths of each champion. Items will be picked to fix in with power spikes and the matchup. An intricate knowledge of every item for any circumstance is maintained. Power spikes are understood on basically every champion in the game, and especially their own champions on within 100 or 200 HP. Power spikes are used to win the game, basically. That's the only thing that can win you it, because everyone's got basic mechanics. Zone controls are nearly palpable to this level of player, and knowledge of base zones and of course theoretic maximum zones added into mobility will ensure these players can hit basically anything or know the max amount of pick potential they can possibly provide. Champion pool. This level of player can literally play any champion and do at least well on them. The level of knowledge they have will basically mean any champion they can think of, they'll just pick it, it's fine. They don't need practice at this level. They can simply theorize how the champion is meant to work and actually execute it properly. Every single champion in the game is completely understood and for the most part playable, although they will still have their main champions overall. Roles. All roles, every single role in the game can be played to a very good level with no exceptions. At this point in the game, multiple roles have been made, but normally they stick to one or two which they know with the literal best players in the game. With all roles and champions mastered, any role should be easily utilized to its maximum extent and executed flawlessly. And that's it. Once again guys, this can vary massively, and of course exceptions will be made. It's just my basic thought on a basic approximation on what each level of play should have. This is a good estimation of what each level of player should understand, play, and which roles and champions they should use in each ELO. It's a good approximation to think, do you deserve that higher ELO? Do you deserve the diamond? Do you have this level of knowledge? Do you deserve the platinum? Do you deserve challenger master? For some players out there, they're going to read this and go, do I have that level? And that's it for the end of the guide guys. I hope you liked it. If you like it, like it. Dislike it, dislike it. If you like me, subscribe. Or if you hate the video and it's awful, unsub and completely fair. Besides that guys, have an absolutely great day, and as always, best of luck in the Rift.